The status layer of modern life. Who are we trying to be seen by? Status signaling self-worth in a hyper-connected era, which we are all in. This is the Armin Show. Armin Shervanian, your host here, episode number 450. Wow. We're going to be talking about things like the difference between earned and perceived status. Why status is more fragmented now. Cultures, niche followings, there's fragmentation. How social media distorts status dynamics. It can mess it up. How to build real internal worth instead of performative personas. Real internal worth. And we'll mention some past people I've talked to and how that relates to status. Very important topic. A lot of people look at it. The Status Game was a popular book that was by Will Storr. And status has always been vital. As part of society, there's a categorization, a hierarchy. People looking upward at what they could be, or be near, or be more like. Now, to start it off, you might be I go to cafes. You may be at a cafe at some point, and you see someone, they are signaling, let's say it's seriousness. They've got or creativity. They're signaling creativity. They've got their artistic notebook. They've got their pen. They've got their things out. They could be doing a lot, maybe not so much, but those things you see, okay, this looks like a creative person. They've got a lot of spirit. They are about it. They are showcasing, I am this kind of individual, and I have been probably for a while. Could be very focused on work-related things. They're signaling, okay, I am goal-oriented and focused, or I would hope that you would see me as that. Either way. Now, there's what they might be wanting to signal versus what they may actually be. You might see someone that is smiling with relaxed posture, and that could be their actual nature. They are joyful, they're glad to be in the moment, and they're not thinking about signaling per se. That can be a good sign. You're seeing someone feeling great, and the hope is that they're feeling great, and it's not to cause you to feel some way about them, but their day is actually going well in that case. That would be nice. The difference between what is trying to be represented versus what is. So here's a couple of definitions. Earned status are things like skill, knowledge, originality. You have to earn these. They take effort, a lot of work, goals to get there. Perceived status could be things like appearance, the things you signal, tribe alignment with a group, showing people, oh, I'm part of this group. Look how much I've participated with them for over 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be. You're showcasing something. It may not actually be you. If it's not you, that is for perceived status, but it's not matching the world of earned status. They're not the same. Now, as far as examples, Rob Henderson, Dr. Rob Henderson, I've had him on the show before. His book has been doing wonderful, Troubled. He talks about luxury beliefs, signaling status with ideas. You represent a message to the public to show that you are here. The point of the message was to show that you are here. There's our luxury beliefs. He describes them when they are something that puts you up here, keeps you there, and if people take your advice, it's not beneficial to get them there. It may actually keep them down here, but it sounds good and makes you look like you are beyond. What a statement, because then you're signaling status. You are keeping your status. You're keeping other people at lower status, all in one. It's a package deal. Another example of how this can be showcased publicly on online postings for social platforms, which are getting less social, by the way. They are almost not social now. Many people have pointed this out lately. The social platforms are now entertainment platforms for the most part, fitting people's interests, and there's not much of your friends on there. Now it's these people that are funny or surprising or something that grabs your attention versus the people you've actually known or met in person, which is a different layer because now you don't have that type of connection. Now it's some figure. It might as well be TV, movies, some sort of distant figure. Before we would connect with people more so that we were knowing of and around. That has reduced substantially in recent times. Now, The difference between looking a certain way online, they could also be for academic papers. Some people like to showcase their readership. You may have a readership for your academic work, and you may want to represent yourself a certain way. And do you maintain a decorum that keeps you as though you are the authority figure? Or are you welcoming of other people's ideas so that some of your status can be passed on? The opening or releasing of your status is a big deal. If you don't do that, it'll keep you up here potentially for longer, but it's not going to be preferred, and it may leave you vulnerable to being left out later on because you're not participating in a reasonable way. Now, AI tools, that's something I use quite a bit. Artificial intelligence tools, and these resources are wonderful, but you have to make sure you're using them for productivity and not just to showcase online, hey, I'm using the most recent thing, the modern thing. I'm taking part in this technology. That's not the point of them. Now, you can do that, but one of them is for earned status. You're using them as a tool to figure things out and master skills. And then the other one is for perceived status. You're showing, wow, I used the latest product, the newest thing. Have you guys seen this? Making others look like they're behind or feel like they're behind, which means that you're ahead. So there's a trade-off, a back and forth in that way. Now, I talked with a few guests about status. Rob mentioned it with Luxury Beliefs. Bo Weingard, he talked about how personality and background shapes status drives. So some people are much more driven towards status than others based on their personality. Others have no real desire to build their status, and you'll notice it in their lifetime. They'll go years and years and years, and you say, wait a minute, they're not jumping up that hierarchy, whereas the other person immediately would be rushing towards jumping up that hierarchy. And they both had time to do it, but one of them did not prioritize it, see a lot of value in it. The other person couldn't wait to grab, whether it was earned status or perceived status, something to move up the hierarchy immediately. There's a sense of urgency there. Some personality types don't have that sense of urgency, and in most common categories, and so they're not reaching for that. And you may look at them differently later on, but they aren't seeing the same goals. They don't have the same, I have to grab that right away. So that's a difference in nature. What does it take to maintain or rise in status? You have to pay a cost. What is part of the cost? Mental energy. This requires effort. You don't just casually climb up a hierarchy of people. This is people versus people. And so you have to use your mental energy to figure out, what can I make? What can I do? Who do I talk to? What do I need to figure out? That's a lot of effort, a lot of sugar energy and thought energy. Anxiety. You could have anxiety in the process, trying to figure out how to get there. Oh, I'm not there. I'm anxious. Oh, did I miss this opportunity? What am I doing? That's part of the cost. Identity gaps. You see yourself here, but you're here along the way. There's a gap between who you are and that part of the hierarchy you would like to be on. So you're paying a cost, having that mindset that doesn't match reality right now until it does. And then maybe even there, you'll have a new gap. And so there's a cost of your internal reality versus reality and how they match up. Some of my past guests have pointed out that if you care more about perception than actual status that is earned, that can hurt progress, because now you're putting more effort into maintaining an image, which can take a lot of effort, especially when you're competing with other people who also would like to have a certain image. Now you have to outdo them. You're putting in so much effort against them to maintain an image, and this is coming at the cost of progress in something substantial. The image effort is more hollow because that's for someone's representation of you at that time. And then the next day, and then the next day, you have to keep maintaining this image. It's a lot of continuous effort versus if there's a base If you actually have a base underneath there, it's not so much effort. There's a base there. You don't have to maintain that image so much. How do you reclaim real value? Here's a few ways. So self-awareness is important in many categories, but in this one, you want to notice when you're performing. So if you're performing, you can see it from yourself. You're wondering, why am I doing this? This is not my actual self. This is clearly for others and not representative of me. I'm performing. Maybe I need to cut this off. That'll keep you more towards real value. You want to feel signals, things that you feel like are victories to yourself. Record records of your habits that make sense to you. Keep track of that. Have a progress listing of progress you've made over time for things that make sense to you. This is real value for you, for your next day, for the next day as you are, which is different from looking at external signals. You want to look at thinkers who've also already walked the path that you want to walk. So you're walking the same path, like on a trail in a wonderful location. You could model, let's say Derek Sivers, who was on the show from New Zealand. He spoke about his path, and he's even described ways people can follow this one location. You go to the same location as he did and think about things that he did. He gives a description of how you could follow along something he did directly. He gives a lot of his insight, so you could follow along with that. And so if you're modeling to follow along with a thinker that you value, that's progress. You're walking along the trail that they walked on. Helen Chandler Wild was on the show about her book, Lost and Found. She had a path that she showcased of a lot of items getting burned and lost, and then coming back after that, progressing through it. Someone could have their own losses and then follow that path that she did, but with their own details. And now you're progressing through it. That's real value for you. Not to represent for others, but for yourself. And that's the kind that sticks. You don't have to represent it as an image for others. It is there. It sticks. It's a base. It's a concrete foundation of sorts. Now, one thing you want to think about to yourself during the week, you want to notice one signal in life, something that you're paying attention to, that you put out there, and ask, is it for me or is it for them? So now you're comparing, like, is this thing that I'm doing, is this for me or is it for the outer world? Because one of them builds a base the more you do it. The other one requires continuous effort and has a hollow feeling underneath it. So they are not the same in that way. They are quite different. The things that are for you, you can build a base of your items. 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, you have this strong base of you. That makes sense to you. There's no question about it. It's your world. And from that, you can do other things. But if you build a base related to others, now you have a base that is based on others. It's not for you. If something shaky happens for you, you have to rely on this base that is an image for others. It only works for maintaining that image for others. It doesn't work as well for maintaining you and your progress. You can see the difference there. They are not the same. Now, I spoke with Sophie Scott Brown, and I spoke with her and also Sandra Matz, Dr. Sandra Matz, both of them. We talked about how signals shape perceptions in communities. So you can have anonymity and you can have structure. So in anonymous communities, signals still shape perception because you're comparing among a group of people. Nobody knows who the other people are online in some group. And still, there was a competitive hierarchy for the number of shares on a post, or how much people like this one comment, or who responds to this comment the most. Even in an anonymous framework where people don't know each other and the names are random names, still it shapes perception. And there could be even a structured online forums for communication, and on those, the signals that are showcased, they show hierarchy much more clearly when they're structured, and it's up to you to analyze, do I want to participate in this signal battle platform, or do I want to leave this one alone? But you want to recognize it versus just being part of it. And then maybe a year later, you wonder, why was I taking part in all that? Not necessary. Not so much. Now, in relation to AI, how can using a type of AI become a performative gesture? Like I mentioned earlier, if you do use a platform and you use it to say, hey, I just used this new thing, you guys should try it because you're trying to show people you're on top of it and they should catch up. But 6 months later, you don't use the thing. It wasn't really an important thing. And there wasn't a care or concern behind it. Now the whole point of what you did was to show, I'm forging ahead, everybody. Come follow me. I know what I'm doing, even if you don't really believe it. That's not good, because that will break down at some point. Now, if you are actually ahead in the category or in the field or figuring out things, and you want to help bring people along, that's different. And it'll feel different to the viewers of those videos or clips or those messages, because they'll say, oh, okay, they're trying to bring me along. There's a much different feel when somebody's trying to bring you along versus when they're saying, you're missing out, I'm ahead, and clap for me while I keep going ahead and you're not able to do it as well as me. Because that's a bit of stepping on others, and we don't want too much of that. Very valid point here about status and how we gain it over time, but you want to gain it in a category that you're glad about is the key here. You want to gain it in something where 3 months later, you do feel like I have set up myself in a more full position. That's the earned status. And if you don't feel that and you feel like you have to keep putting in so much effort, you may have put a lot of effort into perceived status and it won't feel as good. Both might be better than nothing because nothing is empty, but the perceived status is very hollow and easily breakable. It's not anti-fragile like Nicholas Nassim Taleb titled his book, but it's fragile. So there's a lot of vulnerability in having perceived status built, but not vulnerability in having earned status built. So a big difference there. And you tend to admire the individuals who have earned status more and for longer than the ones who have showcased or presented perceived status for that period of time. It usually is a short period of time. And they disappear. You'll notice that they disappear because it was a fleeting item. It's like a balloon with the air going out of it repeatedly. If they take a break for some period of time, that balloon will dwindle, and that's it. The other one is like a brick by brick by brick by brick. If they take a break, the bricks are still there. There's a base. One is the balloon with the air going out, and one is bricks that build on top of each other. The difference is quite strong. We want to pay attention to these differences. When you have, I want to show an example of earned status applying. If you have done discussions with people, as an example, and you have spoken with them about things that matter and that matter to you and to the general public, those are bricks. Now you can reference those talks when you're bringing up a topic like this status, and it's a strong base. Now, if you try to make perceived status over time, like I know that person, or I'm not even good at this category because it's not the way I think, but you build up an image of yourself. When it comes time to actually make use of it in some way, you can't do anything with that image. At best, you can hope you fool a few people and they give you an opportunity for some reason because you fooled them. But when you have actual earned status, or you have built up conversations with intelligent individuals, or you have an experience in whatever category you do, those things are there. You can always pull from them later on and say, I did this, and when I spoke with this person about this, we figured out this. Now, based on this, there's a base of it. It's not an image. You actually did it. You took part. You went there. You did the thing. There's a huge difference there. So it's good to compare those two. and try to keep on the side of earned status if it's doable. This one has been episode number 450 of The Armin Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Earned status versus perceived status. The description, the status layer of modern life, who we are trying to be seen by. And onward we go into the next one.